Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I am Jam Creates, and I am joined by my buddy RC Gates. You guys see him all the time on my show, The Best Ever, every week. Uh, and we are joined by our special guest tonight, Red Gaze, or the Red Gaze, as he is known in some circles.
In some.
So we're gonna talk tonight about Red's project. It is called Sunsworn, Wings of Vengeance, which I feel like if you're going to say it, you kind of have to say it in his voice, which if you don't know Red Gaze, he's got a very distinctive voice. He very much has an announcer voice.
Well, thank you.
Well,
yeah, I didn't really discover this until I started playing around on YouTube, because nobody I ever knew suggested, hey, why don't you go into radio? You know, that might have helped me earlier in my life, but you know, you hear your own voice and you don't really think about it. It just sounds like your voice, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, no, that happens all the time. I know. I actually did go to school for that, and it didn't really help, but but yeah, no, and it's funny because I've gotten people who tell me, like, over the phone or whatever, they'll always say, especially I had a job at one point where I was just answering phone all day long, and like people would tell me all the time, oh wow, you have such a nice voice, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, I don't know, what do you say to that? Yeah.
It is kind of interesting because I had this lady friend who I'd known for years, right? And then we eventually got together, but we never spoke on the phone. And one day I had called her, and she made some kind of comment like that, like, "Oh, you sound really sexy on the phone." I was like, "What?" Is she just? I just assumed she was being nice, but maybe there's something about the translation from through a microphone that does it. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, it's just one of those things. You got to just roll with it, right?
I'm definitely rolling with it now. Now that I know, I'm going to take full advantage.
I mean, with something like that, definitely go for it.
Well, and the other thing is, before we even get into the book, like, one of the things that you do for a lot of people is you help make campaign videos for a lot of people.
Yeah. I just kind of fell into that too. I just started playing around with it for other people's campaigns. Just, you know, people were like, "Well, do you think a trailer would help?" I'm like, why not? I got halfway decent editing skills. But looking back at those earlier trailers, I probably shouldn't have even said that at that time, because that editing sucked. But yeah, I've just been playing around and getting better, and eventually I think I'm going to upgrade the equipment here shortly, because I've just been messing around with the same old program I've been using from day one.
What do you use? I'm just curious.
I use Movavi Video Suite for the editing. That's what I use for my videos and everything. That's the reason I got it in the first place, was just for YouTube.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm definitely going to start taking a look at some bigger and better programs, maybe even stop motion animation, that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
So yeah, there's hopefully in the next year or two, there'll be some cool things happening.
Oh, Fizz Chozo in the chat said, how much would it cost for you to make a trailer for my comic book?
I don't usually throw that number out. First time creators, I definitely like to give like a hefty discount too, because I know a lot of people come into this without a ton of money to spend, without a huge budget, and their budgets are usually, you know, allocated somewhere else rather than the trailer. So
right.
Yeah, first time creators, I'll definitely hook you up.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to edit video for a living, and I learned on Avid, which is used by a lot of TV studios and that kind of stuff, and it is an absolute nightmare. And so then when I started doing it for myself, I started using Final Cut. And in fact, I still, on my Mac, I have an iMac from, God, I think it's the same age as my daughter, so it's got to be like 15 years old. And I still use, I actually literally stopped at, what is it, Snow Leopard, the operating system, because if I go one more, then I can't use the version of Final Cut that I have.
Oh, goodness.
So yeah, so it's interesting. It has a little, there's definitely some issues with certain file compatibility, trying to use like phone video. It just, like, the version of Final Cut I have, it's like, wait, what is this nonsense? Yeah. So it's, yeah, I've been just, you know, trying to find something lightweight that I can use on my laptop and just do it that way, which is a Windows PC. and just do it that way. I don't know. I'm always like messing around. I'll use but eventually I always just cave and I just go back to the Mac and just use the Final Cut Final Cut 4.
Yeah. Well, the sad thing is you have phone apps now that are better than programs that we used to use.
I know. Oh, Lola Meets is in the chat. Hello, Lola. How are you?
Up, Lola?
So let's get into we'll talk about the book. We'll also obviously, like, if anybody has seen any of my streams knows that we go on tangents.
Oh, that's all good. I welcome tangents.
It's part of what keeps it fun.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I know like you're making the rounds now. We even had an interview on Indie Comics Underground, which, if you don't know, is my website that's dedicated to indie and crowdfunded comics. You can just go to Indie Comics Sorry, it's the first day with the new tongue. IndieComicsUnderground.com. And you can see an interview with Red there, all about his book, lots of interviews and other stuff there. So that's my shameless shill for my website.
Which is good. You should go there. Because that interview will most likely be much better than this one, just because I'm much better in the written word than the spoken.
So let's talk first. That's interesting that you mentioned that, because the first book, this is the second in the Sunsworn. What would you call it? The Sunsworn.
I've just been calling it the Sunsworn universe.
There you go. It's the second product in the Sunsworn universe. It is the first comic book in the Sunsworn universe. The first book was a novel.
Correct.
So what was that? I mean, how was that for you, going from writing prose to writing a comic book script?
Well, it was both of them are fun and challenging, but for different reasons. I've been kind of playing around with writing comic scripts for a while, even before I started on that particular novel. So I've been going. I started writing novels pretty early. I'd say maybe 10 to 15 years ago is when I first started dabbling in. I started with short stories and eventually got up the gumption to try a full-scale novel. And then I had a tragedy occur. This is before I was in the habit of backing everything up constantly, back up. Yeah, so I got about 20 chapters into that, and I had a hard drive crash, and that kind of turned me off for a while.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
So yeah, it took me a little while to kind of get back on board, because I'm a gamer too, so I'm always writing stuff for tabletop role-playing games and that kind of stuff. So I just kind of occupied my time with that for a few years, and eventually I decided to give it another try, and that's when Sunsworn was created. Thankfully, this one was finished because I backed up. There's no crashes, no tragedies this time around. But yeah, it was really fulfilling to finish a novel, especially one of that size, because I went into this project kind of thinking it was going to be, maybe around 300 pages. Ended up being like 535. So, I mean, I'm both happy and sad about that, because I'm sure that hurt me on shipping. But but I just wanted to give the story space to breathe, and
right. Yeah,
but going from that to writing out a comic script actually wasn't that big of a leap for me. I think, I don't know. I just, I tend to write everything cinematically, whether it's, in a prose novel or in a comic book script. And I've been told that by artists who have taken a look at my scripts too, which is good, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Because I just take what I'm seeing in my mind and try to translate it to paper, and then see how someone else translates it to paper in their own way.
Right. Now that's something different about writing. When you're writing a book, obviously eventually the end goal is that people will read it, so you're still writing for people to read it. But when you're writing a comic book script, you're writing it so that then it can go to an artist, and then the artist can interpret that. And I almost feel like there's, I don't know, maybe it's just my own thing, but I almost feel like there's almost more pressure in that. Because it's the one person.
Yeah, a little bit, but then you can also kind of say, well, you can point the finger at the artist and be like, oh, well, they didn't draw it the way I was envisioning. No, I would never do that. That's a joke. If it looked the way I wasn't envisioning, and in a bad way, then it would just be redone. But yeah, there is a small amount of pressure there. But I tend to work with artists that I kind of already know, so it's not. I don't know. I don't feel a lot of pressure on that from from my end. They might. It's been a fun experience. I'd say the biggest challenge in writing a comic script as compared to writing a novel would be trying to condense the story to a place where it's not going to be an insane amount of pages, but at the same time still tell a good story and make sure nothing's missing or shortened just because you felt it had to be for the sake of pages. So that's a little challenging, but I think I got an angle on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, comic book pacing is very different from novel pacing,
right?
That in fact, that's something that it's funny because I was always like a big, just a huge comic reader, and then I kind of fell out for a while, especially when like I got married and had a kid, and money was super tight, and then getting back into it, it was funny because as I started reading again, I found that at first, when I first got back into reading comics, I wasn't used to the pacing anymore. And so everything felt rushed to me at first. And it was just an awkward little, I mean, eventually, obviously, I got back in the swing of things and it was fine. But it was just this weird little transition period.
It does feel very rushed, doesn't it? Like even I'm still like even now doing rereads of it and seeing if there's anything I can tweak in things that haven't been drawn yet. And It does. It always feels rushed, and I don't think there's a way for it not to feel rushed because it's going to end up being around 60 pages at this point, and it still feels rushed. Well, I think that's just because I had just spent 2 years writing out as extensively as I wanted to. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. Is the one nice thing about doing your own book and doing a crowdfunded book is you don't have the constraints that you would have if you were working for a publisher or doing a monthly title or something like that, where it's, like it's got to be done by this time. It's got to be, 22 pages or 20 pages or whatever it's going to be for that. So like, that's definitely like, it's a different thing when you're working by yourself,
right?
You have to rein yourself in.
Yeah. Well, even thinking about that, like, I don't know if I could, actually, at this point in time, I don't know if I could write a story like what I felt was a full story in 20 or 22 pages. That'd be tough.
Well, and again, that's where that breakneck pacing comes from for sure.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Fizz Chozo asked, and this is where we were going eventually, is what is the concept of Sunsworn?
Well, that's a broad question. The concept is basically like I've always loved sci-fi. I've always loved fantasy. But when the two meet in the middle, like that's where my heart lies. I love that stuff. So the concept of Sunsworn is we take in a galaxy that lived in relative peace, I'd say near utopian, with still a few rogue elements, but and just turning that completely on its head. What you witness in Edge of Annihilation is I would say the breakdown of a perfectly functioning, coherent society into near madness. That's something that they're going to have to be rebuilding. That's just kind of the beginning, is just to take the dinner table, pull out the tablecloth, but do it incorrectly, so everything just flies everywhere. So the rest of the series is going to be them pretty much cleaning up their galaxy and still dealing with some other issues that are out there. So it's for this to be just an epic series with really strong epic characters, relatable characters, like every single character. You can ask anyone who's read the novel. Every character has their own individual arc. I don't believe in putting a character in a story unless you're going to do something with them. So and nobody stays the same, especially when you have galaxy shattering events occurring. Of course people are going to change. Of course their points of view are going to change. It's I just want to tell a compelling story endlessly. There's endless stories that can come out of this universe, and that's what I mean to do.
All right, I'm going to pull up the campaign real quick, so while we're talking about it, people can see what we're talking about. Obviously right now you're still funding. You got 8 days left on the campaign. Now, are you going to extend, or are you going in demand, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm going to extend. I don't know what it is. I think it's just been the 30-day and then 30-day extension model has just kind of been drilled into my head at this point. So
right.
I just stuck with that because that's what I did on the last campaign, and I don't know, it's pretty comfortable. So I'll probably just do that. And I think everybody's kind of on to the gimmick now too, right? Like it's not, okay, it's going to extend anyway, right? So, but
Yeah,
we're definitely extending, and I make no secret of that. I'm not trying to screw anybody and be like, yeah, we only got 8 days left. Get on it, get on it.
yeah. You know what though? I feel like it gives a nice, yes, everybody does it now. That's kind of the way everybody runs their campaigns. But I feel like it gives a nice, just a natural rhythm to the campaign.
Yeah,
where it's just like when you hit that point, okay, now it's almost like okay, we're at the halfway point. And people know like it can only be extended once.
right.
So like
Yeah.
if you see somebody, if you see someone extending their campaign, like if I want to get in on this, I got to be on the ball about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a nice way to track it, and it's also kind of a nice, I don't know, a nice setup because then you can, you can have a middle event, do something special in the middle, maybe pop up something new. One thing I advise people not to do during their extension is, some people have come to me and said, "Hey, I was thinking about doing introducing a variant cover like in the second 30 days." And I just think that's a terrible idea, just because not everybody can afford to just be like, okay, well, there's another cover, great, I'm going to buy that. No, you're going to get a lot of people refunding just because they want that cover instead, and that's going to kind of wreak havoc on your analytics and your numbers. And I think there might even be some hidden fees involved there too that might cut you out of a couple bucks.
There probably is, yeah, just with the refund and then the rebacking. I'm sure there is something there. I'm sure there's something there that's going to cost you a little something.
Yeah.
But then also, I'm also a big fan of just simple campaigns. I think like the simpler the better. I know some people get a little get carried away and start doing a million covers, or they start adding. I'm okay with when people do the first day, the 24-hour limited cover or something like that. Where you back on the first day. Like I'm fine with that. Like that's a great way to get people in the door right at the start. But like you said, introducing a new cover halfway through the campaign is like you just pissed off everybody who backed you through the beginning of the campaign. Like that,
Well, yeah, people do take some of this stuff surprisingly personally.
Yes. What's up, Pablo? How you doing? So yeah, no, I definitely think like I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. And not going too overboard. I mean, I get like variant covers are a thing, obviously, and people are going to have them. But I feel like don't have a million of them. That's
definitely don't go overboard. That's why, yes, I even kind of wrestled with the idea of even having a variant cover on this, but I never want to have a campaign without a Vinny cover available somewhere.
Right. So like this right here, this is the standard cover, the main cover.
Yep, that's the main cover. That's 100% done by Nerium. She drew that. She colored it. She actually surprised me with that because I kind of gave her an idea that was in my head. My initial thought for this was to have our 3 heroes there kind of surrounded by dragons that are closing in on them. And she said, well, I got an idea. Let me throw this at you. And she came at me with this, and I was like, yeah, let's do that instead.
Well, she's a fantastic artist. Like,
she's a great visionary too, and a hell of a designer. Like she designed this whole campaign as well.
Well, it's funny. I heard you say that the other day, and I was like, I could see that because it reminds me of the Bonds campaign.
Yeah, she did Witch Hunter as well. The campaign.
Oh, did she? I didn't realize she did that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, she's like I said, she's a fantastic artist. So to have her on the book is fantastic, is really great. And then here's the Vinny cover.
Yeah, had to have it. I had to have it. This is more for me than anyone, so sorry. I got a little greedy there.
There's nothing wrong with that. But you can see, I mean, obviously from the covers alone, you can see what you're dealing with here is definitely science fiction fantasy. Just from what you're seeing with, there's dragons and there's, swords and lasers and all sorts of stuff,
Yep.
Yeah, so you can definitely tell. Now, one of the things, and I asked this in the interview that's on the website, but I'll ask it again here for anybody who didn't read it. Do you need to have read the novel in order to read the comic?
No, you don't. It'll definitely add to your experience if you do, because that's the novel's a great introduction to the universe and really dives deeply into most of these characters. But no, you're not going to need to. What I decided to do with this is the first page, I'm going to do something kind of reminiscent of a Star Wars crawl, just to kind of get anyone who isn't familiar up to speed with the events that happened and where the galaxy is at this point in time. So yeah, you don't need to, and I did that specifically, and I kind of wrote the whole story that way as well, just because I know some people aren't, it's not in them to sit down and read 500 pages. I get that. I was not always a reader either, but yeah, some people just like comics. They just like the visuals and the quick dialogue, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I intend to release at least one comic in between each of the novel campaigns, and every one of their stories is going to be a standalone story with, kind of its own little introduction in case you're not familiar.
Right. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool idea because you've got like this giant world, and this giant universe, and at the same time, people can have different entry points. However they choose to get into it, whether they want to read all the novels or just read the comics or read both to get the entire experience. It's a really cool thing that you're able to do it. Because I don't know if I could write. I mean, I wrote a book. I never published it, but I did write a book. But I don't think I have it in me to write a bunch of books. Comics I could write. I don't think I could write a bunch of novels, though.
Yeah, I just feel like I have to. Currently I have 2 trilogies outlined and ready to go to get started. I'm already started on the second novel, but yeah, it can be. It's definitely a daunting process. But once you get through the first one, it's really, I don't know, it kind of juices you up. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. I can just write these things endlessly. But it is time consuming, and it's a lot of work. But I think it's worth it in the end.
Pablo wrote that he did a cover for a project on Kickstarter that had like 10 or more variants. He said, I think most people bought the original cover and their tier with all the variants.
Wow.
Jeez.
That is a lot of variant covers.
That is a lot of variants.
Like, I can't even, like, it's funny because I know for myself, when I back books, I tend to back, unless there's a specific person whose cover just looks just outrageous to the point where like I need it in my life, then I'll usually back whatever the original cover from the artist who's doing the book is.
Yeah, I'm actually the same way. I'm actually the same way.
Yeah, I know what it is. It's from me being from years of reading comics and being horribly disappointed if the cover and the interior art was different.
Right.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, like I can't voluntarily do it to myself. You know what I mean? Like, how many times you go to the store and you would pick up a comic and the cover looks amazing, and then you open it up and the art inside is completely different. Not even necessarily bad, just different, and it just throws your whole like enjoyment off.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with you on that one, 100%.
So like, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, which is kind of one of the reasons why with Vinny's cover, like I know what Vinny can do. He did the cover for the novel and had a lot of characters on there.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons why I had that more, I don't know if you want to call it minimalistic or simplistic, zoom in view of Aster there with the dragon reflection. But I just, I didn't want to have like a big, epic, amazing, like lots of stuff going on cover with Vinny on this one, just for that reason, because I'm right there with you.
Right. Yeah, it's just, it's just a personal preference. I'm sure not everyone feels that way. Again, there's a lot of people who will collect every cover of something, which is another reason why I feel like it's better not to have a million variants, because then those people, if they're compulsive about it, then they're like angry at you because you made them spend so much money. Which it sounds crazy, but I've seen it happen.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of people put a lot of themselves into this stuff. I think a big part of that is because this is kind of the new hope. This is like all we got left.
Right.
So people do get they put a lot of themselves into it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the case, especially if it's something they really, really are looking forward to and they really like. So this, okay, so I have to ask, let's get in a little bit more to the world here and stuff. We've got dragons. Now, I know they're not called dragons.
Yeah, they're referred to as Drakor.
And I was gonna say we've got dragons, and we've got dragons fighting and taking down spaceships. How did you where did this even come from for you? Like,
Honestly, I don't know. Just kind of it just kind of came. The entire Sunsworn universe was taken from a role playing universe that I designed like eons ago, probably close to 20 years ago. But that was it was kind of like a space superhero setting. So what I basically did was kind of remove the superhero aspect and just stick with the setting. Revamped a lot of things, and it just kind of worked out this way. Like when I sat down and first started writing the novel, like Dracor wasn't a thing in my mind. It just kind of spawned and evolved as the story was going, and that happened with a lot of things actually. As I was writing the novel, like the characters themselves, I had a clear path for each and every one of them, and I'd say at least 50% of them diverted from that path and said, "Nope, I'm going to do this. Nope, I'm not going to die. Oh, but maybe I am going to die." You know, and it just they basically took the story from me and just made me write it.
yeah, I will say, like, I know for myself, when I did the book that I did write, and then when I am writing like the comics that I'm working on, um, I tend to, I'll have an outline, and then for me at least, what I do is I'll have an outline of what I want the story to be, and then I just kind of I would just write, and then whatever happens, and then I figure out how I need to fix it if something doesn't work quite right at the end, like afterwards.
Yeah,
Like, so yeah, I can understand, like, the characters kind of like take on a mind of their own. Things just kind of happen as you're writing, and you almost don't even feel like you're in control.
yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, there's one character in particular, which I mean, for those who read it, was I don't know, it was kind of like a breakout character almost, like somebody I never really expected to do much with. She was kind of a side character. Her name's Yuri, but I mean, yeah, she really came into her own. A lot of people who have read it like her. So, yeah, even by the end of the book, she was doing more than I was expecting her to do. And in the next book, she's actually going to take on a much bigger role. So, yeah, you never know where these characters are going to go. Once you start writing, they just kind of take the wheel and drive wherever the hell they want.
It's definitely cool though that happened, because that means that the character resonated with people, and that's got to be a really cool feeling to know that, like, a character that you wrote people had this connection with that character, so much so that now you're actually expanding the role of the character.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Her expansion, I mean, came really before anybody even knew she existed. But like I said, she did that on her own. But yeah, I know like Pale Rider and Mogwai, a lot of these guys who really like the book really like that character. And honestly, initially, Nerium was going to do a comic story about that character. But things shifted a little bit, and we just stuck with Wings of Vengeance, and that's probably still going to be coming down the road, but not quite yet.
Mhm. So yeah, I mean, again, I hope people can see the art. I know it's a little weird when you share the screen, like, it's a little small, but if people are checking out the art. The art is absolutely out of this world, and the colors as well.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. That's Mika Fusco from Barbusco Studios, applying colors. And yeah, their styles mesh really well. Actually, their coloring styles are already very similar. So I guess, yeah, that just translated really well.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Nerium's own coloring, because Bonds is it's all black and white.
Right.
And then we've got down here, you've got prints, and then you've got trading cards by Carla, who I love. I love her art style.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's going to be prints of both of the cover art that come with every single tier is going to come with those as well, except for I think the novel leftovers tier. That's just the novel, but yeah, other than that, yeah, both of these prints are coming with every tier.
Right. So now the novel, people can get the original novel either as an add-on or as its own tier.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I initially just had it as an add-on. A couple people asked me to put it on there as a standalone tier, so yeah, I went ahead and did that.
It's interesting.
But yeah, these trading cards come with the Sirens of Sunsworn tier. They're only available in that tier and the Total Onslaught tier. These trading cards and Nerium's prints as well. Just about everything else can be found as an add-on.
Okay. Yeah, so you've even got shirts. Did you ship shirts with the book with the first campaign?
No, this will be my first time doing t-shirts.
Okay, I'm curious how that works.
Well, I've received a couple. I know some people just kind of wrap them around the book.
Okay.
Not sure if I'm going to do that or not. I'll probably just use a bigger box because I still have, a good number of the shipping boxes I use for the novel, which were necessarily oversized.
Right.
That those will fit into nicely. So I'll probably just use those for anyone getting a T-shirt.
And then you've got traditional art here.
Yeah, almost all of that is gone. I think we still have one left. There's probably going to be some more coming at one point or another. But yeah, most of the traditional art went the first day, which I was very happy about.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. It's a great option to have for sure. Like things like this, like sketch cards as well. Like anything like that where people can get original artwork from people. Or just like the cards can add, like instead of having all the variants, I like the idea, like I like prints and cards and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sketch cards seem to be really popular. I think that's probably because it's a really affordable way to get your hands on some traditional art.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, it definitely is because a lot of people can't afford the big money for these giant like traditional pieces like you see on the auctions and stuff like that. Like the amount that some of these pieces go for, it's a little much for a lot of people.
And I think it's kind of intimidating for a lot of people who can't afford to shell out that kind of money. So yeah, I like to see traditional art on campaigns as well. They usually come in a little lower than what you see on the auctions. Usually because there's you get big spenders in those chats and they're just like, nope, I'm just gonna keep jacking his number up till I get it.
Right. Yeah, so I'm looking at the tiers. It looks like pretty much all the oh no, there's one piece. So I mean it's there. You can see people can see the tiers here on the right hand side. The total onslaught. So that's like everything, right?
That's pretty much everything. You get a book with your choice of cover, a T-shirt with your choice of art design on it. We have two designs for that. You get everything that comes with the Sirens of Sunsworn tier, the 3 prints, the 3 trading cards, and the poster. And then you also get a print of each of the cover art as well.
And you get the book and the sketch card, that's a good deal right there. For 65, because you're going to get a sketch card, you're going to get the book, the 2 prints. Like that's a great deal right there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Nerium does not slack on those sketch cards. Like they are beautiful.
And both covers and prints. The novel. Oh yeah, and the novels are a little dinged up. You said.
Yeah, most of them I have left over have a little bit, like a bent corner here or a crease there. They're close to pristine, but not. They were just far enough off that I didn't feel comfortable sending them out on the first campaign at full price. So
now I'm going to ask about the digital tier because I'm just laughing. Pablo Romero said, "I think campaigns need more glow in the dark stuff." That actually, you know what? I concur. I love glow in the dark stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan too.
And a sticker album. That would actually be really cool.
Well, that's interesting because I know I don't want to give too much away, but Nerium was talking to me about something she would like to do on her campaigns in the future, and it's kind of similar to a sticker album type idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like spread throughout the campaigns because she's looking at like 10 books of Bonds. So right. I think what she was looking at doing was drawing up an image and then having it like a portion of that image taken away as a sticker. So you get the sticker with it to kind of create the image with each campaign.
That's a cool idea.
I hope she doesn't punch me in the face for saying
that. Fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah. That's honestly a really neat idea, though, because that's a way to entice people to keep coming back to then, complete the collection.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool idea.
I see in the chat, White Cat Comics is here.
What's up, Carla?
Hey, everyone, back this awesome campaign. I can finally see Jam's face. What's up, Red and RC Gates? Yeah, I never used to show my face till I started doing my weekly show. Then I said, the heck with it. People can deal with it.
I might be getting there. I'm not sure yet. I actually thought about making it a stretch goal because people harass me about it so much. I thought maybe people will pay me to do this.
You know what?
If we're going to do anything, just make money off of it.
Right.
They probably would, too. That's the funny thing.
And then they're all going to be so disappointed.
And Resistance is here. What's up, Mario? How are you?
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, he's a good dude. Oh, and White Cat, White Cat. We were talking about this before we came on the air. She said, "I'm a fan of your TikTok jam." Well, thank you.
Yeah, Carla's the person that suggested to me about TikTok, and I'm still kind of going back and forth with it.
Yeah, she's on there too. I follow her too. She's doing something really brave on her TikTok. She's doing a whole series where she's basically doing like an exercise series where she's trying to lose her pregnancy weight, and she's dancing to lose it, and she's dancing to K-pop music.
All of that takes balls.
Yes. Yes, I would not be doing that. Well, first of all, nobody wants to see me dance. And
well, you never know.
Well, listen, maybe there's someone, but
I bet you in the next 5 seconds, Carla's going to tell you that she would like to see you dance.
And she told you to up your TikTok game, Red.
Yeah, I guess I need to.
So, like I was saying, I want to just talk about the digital for a second, because you've got a digital tier. And the digital tier, do you have? I don't see it there. So, do you have a digital version of the novel anywhere?
I do. That one's an add-on.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was curious about that, because if somebody wanted to go full digital comic and novel, they have an ability to do that then.
Yes.
There it is.
You're definitely right about that one.
Maybe, you know what, Carla? Have me as a guest on one of your streams, and maybe I'll bust a move.
Oh.
If that happens, let me know, because I want to see that.
Yeah, no, you don't.
I only want to see it because you were saying it.
It's because I said bust a move, isn't it?
Exactly.
Again, I have to mention it at least once every stream. I'm old, all right? Deal with it.
You painted yourself into a corner there, Jam.
Yeah, I know. I fully expected her to take me up on that, so I don't know when. We'll figure it out, Carla. We'll do it. I'll do it. I don't care. I have no shame. But okay, so getting back on track. Digital. Was that like a difficult thing for you to decide to do? I know some people have this really hard time deciding whether or not to do a digital tier.
It wasn't that difficult. I did kind of go back and forth with it a little bit because for a number of reasons. But the more I thought about it, the more I think, there's a lot of overseas backers who really get hammered on shipping, and I mean that's nobody's fault really. It's a difficult thing to get around.
Right.
I mean, and with shipping the novel, like I charge people, I think it was $25 for overseas, and I still got hammered like hard because a lot of those countries actually are up to like the neighborhood of $50 to ship. It was 2 pounds 9 ounces, I think, and yeah, it was like $50 for a lot of those to go out.
That's crazy. Like that's literally in some cases that's double what the price of the book is.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Because I was thinking, well, I can't charge these people more for shipping than I'm charging them for the book, because that's just seems like nonsense. But what are you gonna do? It's a pain in the ass, really.
Yeah, that's messed up. Like Pablo said, when you're as old as Jam, shame is gone. You know what does that to you? Having kids. Having kids will eliminate your shame, because there was a day I'll never forget. The day I realized that I no longer gave a rat's patootie what anybody thought about anything like that. And yes, I said rat's patootie. I
should have asked you about your rules for the show before I started cussing on the. I apologize.
I try. There really are no. It's not really a thing. I try not to, because I just generally try not to in life. It just comes out though. Like, you can't help it. Like, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. I'm not offended by it. It's fine.
Okay.
But I remember I was with my daughter and we were in Toys R Us, and we were walking through the store, and there was a something. I don't even remember what it was. It was some kind of Hannah Montana related toy that played music. So here I am in the doll aisle at Toys R Us with my, at the time, probably 5-year-old daughter. And she's playing the Hannah Montana music, and we're both just dancing in the aisle of Toys R Us. Like, and I didn't care. And that's when I realized at that point, whatever. Like, and honestly, especially if you're doing it for your kid, you just don't care.
Oh yeah, I mean, and a kid's a perfect excuse to act stupid too, right?
Of course.
Like, what? You're going to shame someone for having fun with their child? What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
And you have to prep to embarrass them whenever they get older.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm there. That's fine.
He's got files and files waiting.
Oh yes, we've got pictures. We've got all sorts of stuff. Oh jeez. White Cat is now quoting. Carla is now quoting a Hannah Montana song. Pop it, lock it, polka dot it. That's the countrify it, hip hop. Yes, I know the lyrics.
Oh no.
I know. I'm like killing any cred I had whatsoever right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised to see Carla post that, but I mean, when you went on with it, that was a little much for me to handle.
I'm resisting the face palm.
Resistance says, "Don't blame it on the kids." Listen, the kids. I'm one of the kids. What are you talking about? Carla was happy I knew the lyrics. Listen, you don't understand. My daughter was obsessed with Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana, High School Musical. I pretty much know all the lyrics to all the songs.
Did it then break your heart to see the direction Miley Cyrus went?
Honestly, I couldn't care less what a celebrity does, but it bothered me just for my daughter. Because, my daughter was still little, and
right.
And it's like she still liked, to her, Miley Cyrus still was Hannah Montana. You know what I mean?
So just play it like there is no Miley Cyrus. There's only Hannah Montana.
Yeah, exactly. Now that she's older, obviously she understands like a lot of the nonsense that happens, especially with celebrities. We went down a really interesting road right there. Sorry,
my bad.
No, it's all good. You notice I'm literally I'm choosing not to put White Cat's last comment up on the screen.
Well, I think maybe you should.
All right. We'll see. Maybe we'll see. Yes, the stream has definitely gone off the rails. But anyway, so like this is one thing I'm very good at is just instantly just stopping nonsense and saying, okay, so getting back to what we were talking about, which has nothing to do with the nonsense we were just talking about. Like I have no shame. There's no slick way of doing it or cool transition. I just grab it and go.
So enough of that. Moving on.
just yank it. Okay, here's where we're going. But no, getting back to the digital, for me, it's an interesting thing because I do actually read a lot of digital comics, and I know some people hate digital with a white hot passion, and which I don't completely understand. Part of it is for me is depending on the book. I mean, certain books you want to have the physical. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would always rather have the physical book.
Yeah.
If given the choice, but sometimes it's just not even an option. I read a lot of manga, and I don't have a choice with that. If I'm reading, like I have a subscription to the Shonen Jump app, unless I want to wait for the volumes to come out, which you could do, but I just want to read it. I'm impatient. I just want to read it. And so I just read it on the app, and I just, as they come out, they're right there, and I just read them on the app digital. And yeah, I don't have that fun of being able to, like, years from now go back and pull the book off my shelf, but at least I had the enjoyment of reading the story,
right?
Which I may not have had otherwise. And the same goes for certain crowdfunded books. I've backed some books digitally, and I've backed some books physical. And part of that is just a matter of where I am financially at that moment in time.
Yeah.
You know,
That's perfectly understandable.
for certain times, it's like, you know what, I really, really want to read this story, and I would love to buy the physical book, but right at this particular moment in time, maybe I can't buy that book, and I can't buy the physical because you're talking, for most books it's like 25 plus shipping. Um, so if there's a digital tier that's offering a book at 10 or 15, I can afford to do that, because that's like, I mean, you buy a cup of coffee and a donut, and that's that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, $10 or $15 certainly isn't what it used to be.
Right.
It's like a Happy Meal now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I feel like, the digital is a nice offering for, I know not everybody looks at this way. For me, I would just want as many people as possible to read it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I don't have a strong stance on digital one way or the other. Like, me personally, I
Right.
always prefer to have physical, but that's just me. And I've read some digital books as well. So yeah, I get it. I mean, there's not, yeah, and again, the especially when you're backing a lot of these projects, because
Right.
they're not cheap. So yeah, for sure. If digital's what you can do this month, then do digital. Absolutely.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, I look back at the amount of books that I've backed over time, and quite a few, especially at the beginning of this whole thing, of this explosion. At the beginning, a lot of times I was backing at the $50 tier because I wanted the extra stuff.
Right.
And then some of them will come. Some of them will come with as much as another book. At this point, which is a great deal. If you're going to get 2 books. But like I said, at a certain point, like, you just want to read the book, and maybe you don't have the finances to do the book plus shipping. So I feel like digital, and again, obviously, like Pablo said, because I know he's he's international. He backs digital because he doesn't want to deal with imports.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. Well, the whole shipping situation is just, to me, it's completely out of hand and ridiculous.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, like, I live in the US, and even for me, sometimes, the extra $10 shipping that some people are asking for, or whatever it might be, sometimes that's the difference between me going like, you know what, I'll just do the digital, this time. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it is. So imagine if you're talking for somebody overseas, where it's, like you said, at some points it's $50. Like, that's insane. Like,
yeah, well, and just that, like, I could never, in good conscience, sit there and type out $50 and press enter for the shipping. That just seems like, I'd much rather eat it than put that out there, because
right.
I would feel embarrassed having that show up on my page.
Yeah, well, and that's why I know not everyone does this. I know in the beginning, though, a lot of people were charging the same rate for everyone for shipping, but they were charging obviously more than it would cost to ship in the United States, hoping that the US orders would kind of shave off that extra money for the international backers.
Yeah.
Which is, if you can do it, that's great, but it's, not always going to be, people start to get, well, why are you charging me so much for shipping?
Right.
It's tough. It puts the creator in a tough spot.
It does. And I mean, all the, of course, everyone's seeing it from their own personal situation as well. So yeah, I mean, that's not an unreasonable viewpoint either.
Right. No, I mean, it's perfectly understandable, for sure. I mean, it's not something that, it's not something that's out of line. Obviously, everyone has their own situation, and everybody's thinking of their own, finances. So it's,
yeah,
obviously it makes sense. But at the same time, like, as a creator, and you're trying to do this, and you don't have the luxury of, we're all, everybody in this is small creators. They don't have the luxury of, hey, we're going to be shipped overseas along with thousands of other products that are going through, a huge distribution company or something. Like, they just don't, that doesn't exist for small creators.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't take into account also that shipping doesn't just cover the price of shipping it overseas, right? It covers the boxes. It covers everything you put into that package to make it safe, make it arrive safely. There's a lot that goes into shipping as well. That, I mean, that, I wouldn't know either, right? If I hadn't done it,
Right. Well, that's the thing. I remember from, early days of like the CG books shipping, a lot of early creators were getting surprised. They were getting caught by surprise with how much the packing materials cost.
Yeah.
And things like that. And it was like, I get it, because it's the first time that, you guys are doing this stuff. And so it was catching people by surprise. Obviously, at this point, people should know, like, take that into consideration, find out how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least, estimate it as best you can,
Yeah, and please, do everything you can to make sure that that package arrives safely. Like if I'm paying $25 for a book and it arrives without a bag and a board, I'm kind of pissed off.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, bag it and board it, because it's, I mean, really, how much are the bags and the boards? They're not that much. I've looked it up.
Yeah, they're really not.
But yeah, and then you get others who are like, they're packed like, like Fort Knox, where it's, the bag, the board, cardboard, bubble wrap, like all sorts of stuff.
I might have been guilty of that.
It's funny, because we're in this as especially with comics, it's this weird situation of, comics were always this sort of disposable form of entertainment. And that's what made them valuable years later, was because a lot of people did dispose of them afterwards. Right. And now we're in this situation where they are more of a collectible for a lot of people. And so, yeah, you have to do your best to make sure that these books are going to get there in pristine condition, which, in a lot of cases, I see people post pictures sometimes of the way their mail carrier stuffs it into the mailbox and stuff. It's like, and first of all, I'm like, who the hell is your mail carrier that they're bending the Gemini mailer to get it into the mailbox? Like, is it the freaking mountain from Game of Thrones? Like, who the hell is your mailman? Like,
I just don't know why you would think that's all right to do.
I know. I know. Like, seriously, like, here's the funny thing. Like, mail carriers, they deliver packages all the time. And if it's a box that won't fit inside the mailbox, what do they do with it? They bring it to the door. They leave it on the porch.
Pretty sure that's basic protocol.
Like, I don't see why it's any different just because it's a skinny box. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've worked for a delivery service before. Like they're very big on that kind of stuff. You make sure people get their stuff intact. And yeah. I don't know when that changed, but wow, did it change?
That's a mail carrier on his last day of the job.
Yeah, right.
Are they all on their last day? Because I refuse to believe that.
Well, it's funny because I feel like I've seen stuff where, like, you'll see and even I've gotten like boxes, from like UPS or FedEx or whatever, and I've gotten them delivered, and there's like a footprint on the box.
Oh, like, yeah. I have a friend who used to tell me stories, man, nightmares about what these people do. And there's, especially, he worked at FedEx.
Okay.
And wow, some of the things he described. Like, some of these people just get off on it. Like, that's just fun for them, just ruining people's day.
Yeah, which is bizarre. Like, you're in the wrong industry then.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, part of that is probably there really is very little accountability if something like that happens.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they're all about speed, right? So I mean, they work in really crappy conditions to begin with.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of part of their release for some of them is just, well, my day sucks every single day, so screw your package. I'm gonna play kickball with this one.
Right. Well, that's where you get like the videos that pop up every now and then of like UPS guy punts package onto the roof of the house or whatever. Like, like, and of course it gets caught on like a doorbell cam or something.
Yeah.
I used to listen for a while. I actually used to do delivery, and I used to do from business to business, and then I also used to do like some to individuals as well, and it was all wine that I was delivering. So I didn't have the option.
Oh yeah. I delivered some alcohol too, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like I didn't have that option. Like, you can't throw that. That's not going to work.
No, that's definitely not on the table.
No. even with that, what was funny, even when I would deliver to houses, I mean, to restaurants and stuff like that was one thing, but when I would deliver to houses, like I had to have somebody sign for it, and they had to be 21 or over. So many times I would have people like the kid answers the door, and they're like, 16, and they're like, just let him sign for it. I'm like, no. Like it's the same thing as if I was at a bar and I handed him the bottle.
Right.
Like I can't do it. And yet, at the same time, if they're not home, you can just leave it on the porch. Not really sure how that works.
Yeah, some of these rules are a little funky.
Yeah. Like literally, like if your kid didn't open the door, I could just leave it here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. See, that wasn't an option for me because I delivered to distributors.
Okay.
So there had to be a signature on every one of those.
Right.
But yeah, that's really strange.
It was very odd. It was very odd. It was a local thing. I used to drive to we have a bunch of wineries here where I live, so I used to drive the truck, hit all the wineries, and pick up the stuff, and then I would bring it back to the warehouse. Mostly, that's what I did most days. But then every once in a while, I'd go out early and make a bunch of runs, delivering stuff too, or on the weekends I would do that too, just to pick up extra money. It was weird. I didn't mind doing it though. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Just because I got to be outside.
Yeah, listen, the only reason I don't work there anymore is because it was constantly waking up at 2:30 in the morning every day. That became a little much after a while, and then you'd have like anywhere between 7 to 17-hour days on top of it. So yeah, that gets to be a bit much after a while.
It definitely does. So now you also have your own YouTube channel, and you've got like you're closing in on 3,000, right? You've got what, 2,500 subscribers?
Yeah, it's actually been going up again a little bit here. Why, I don't know, because honestly, since I really started doing projects, I've grossly neglected my YouTube channel. I'll still do some live streams here and there and the occasional video, but that's something else I'm looking to ramp up again this year, is just really pay more attention to that, get it moving again, and try to make it because I really want to grow the platforms, just because we need some larger platforms to get eyes on these projects, because it's not a lot.
Yeah, well, that's honestly, like, it's one of the biggest things for an independent creator, is just finding a way to get your product in front of people.
That's really the biggest pain. Like that's honestly, that's more of a pain than any part of it, than writing it, getting, having it. I mean, I don't know, I'm not an artist, so maybe it's a pain for them to draw it, but it's the promotion, it definitely is the most nerve-wracking part of the whole thing.
Right. Well, you know what? In fact, just I'm going to circle back for a second to writing. When you wrote your script for Nerium to use, did you follow like any sort of particular format, or did you just kind of make up your own format?
I got this program a while ago for writing purposes called Scrivener. Mm-hmm. And that it came with a template for comic scripts, so that's what I've been using. That works really well. But yeah, I mean, I could just send you a couple sample pages, and you pretty much get the idea. The program itself is a little easier to work with, because you can like double tab things and bring up what kind of dialogue you need. So it's the program's handy. I recommend it if anybody's looking to do some serious writing. Yeah, it's called Scrivener. It's got a template on there. I forget who made the template, but that's what I've been using, and that's what I've been working with.
That's cool. I'm always interested. The reason I'm asking is just because I draw as well. So anything I'm going to be working on for myself, I just write for myself, and that's always what I've done. So I'll just literally write by hand in a notebook, because it's me.
Yeah, and that's another thing I found. Like every artist is different too. Like they all have their own preferences as well. So some people like panel by panel. Some people like just a description of what you want to accomplish on that page.
Right.
So yeah, I'd definitely talk to your artist before getting deep into it, just to kind of see what their preference is, and maybe kind of I don't know. I think that would help accommodate their style a little bit. Because like Miriam, for example, like I generally go panel to panel, but she said, well, maybe instead of doing that, just kind of, you can still go panel by panel, but just write like a summary for each, write like you're writing a panel, just remove the panel part of it. Because then if I can add an extra panel to it, like break one into 2 panels or something.
Right.
She can do that, and I honestly have no problem with that at all, because every time she's expanded a panel, it made the flow so much better.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I wonder because Resistance said he's addicted to Final Draft. Yeah, that's another one I've heard. A lot of people use that, I know. But like I said, I'm always just writing for myself, so it doesn't matter what I use because it's for me. So I'm always curious, like, about people writing for an artist, like what they use and how they do it.
Yeah, so far, every artist has been different so far as to their preferences as far as scripting goes. And I mean, I have no problem accommodating, because I mean, it's going to be easier for them to translate it. That works for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because like I actually have it right here. Like, I don't know if you can see it. The glare's there. Yeah, it's the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics by Denny O'Neil. This is it's a really good book, but it's so funny because even reading through this, like I still just do my own thing when I'm writing for myself.
Right. Well, you never know. Eventually, one day you might need to write for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. It's possible. I've done like, I haven't done anything. I haven't published anything yet, other than like a couple of short web comics that are on my website. But yeah, like I just write it for myself, and I kind of there was actually last summer, I believe it was. There was a contest. They do it every year. In fact, the new one is the one for this year is coming up. It's called the Platform Comics 10K. So you have 10 hours to make a short comic. Not 10 hours. You have 10,000 hours, excuse me, to make a short comic. So it's literally 7 days. And the day that it starts at noon Eastern on that day, they email you the like for example, when I did it last year. When I did it last year, they sent me my style, or whatever you want to call it, was dystopian love story, and then they send you a line of dialogue that you have to incorporate in the story, so that way they know that you wrote this thing, at least theoretically, that you did this thing in the week that was allotted.
Right.
And I did it last year. I didn't quite make the deadline, unfortunately, because I was doing everything myself, and it was the first time I had ever really tried to take something like that on. And but honestly, I learned so much by doing it. It was really a great experience. And that's how one of the books, that's actually one of the books, it's not really a book, it's a 7-page story, that's on the website, is from that. It started as that, and then I just kind of like, since I didn't hit the deadline, I was literally, the last day I was up for 24 hours trying to finish the coloring and the lettering. And then so I like at after, since I didn't hit it, I was like, all right, I'll take a step back, I'll clean it up a little more, and then I'll just put it on my site and do it that way. But it was a really great learning experience, which was cool.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I know a lot of people do that November NaNoWriMo thing.
Right.
I don't think that's for me. I think I would feel rushed, and I would screw things up, and I would just spend another 2 months editing what I wrote.
Yeah, it's funny because when you have that crazy deadline like that, you just kind of, you have to basically just say like, this is good enough, moving on. Like,
right.
Which is obviously not ideal for something that you were going to eventually ask people money for, but that wasn't the point of that. So,
Yeah.
But that's the other thing that's interesting. And I don't know, since I have you here, I'll pick your brain a little bit about this. And RC, feel free to chime in on this too, because this is something that everybody should, kind of has an opinion on. With these crowdfunded books, now you did the novel, and now you've got the comic, and you've got another novel on the way later.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be delivering on a fairly regular basis new content for Sunsworn. A lot of people, it's funny, we're in this space where some creators are really taking their time. The books take a long time to come out. And so you might get one book a year, or maybe one book from some people, maybe one book every 2 years. And then you've got others who are a little bit quicker at turning stuff out. And it's just an interesting idea of, you're taking your time. And again, that's where I come back to like this weird, I have this weird like disconnect in my head sometimes when it comes to comics, where it's like, I remember comics just being this like constant feed, and it was just this constant grind of like there's new books every week. I got to go buy them, like,
right.
And now like I don't buy anything from the mainstream, so I don't have that. So with the crowdfunded books, obviously you're waiting, and I don't mind the wait. That's fine. I get it. But I also wonder, like, is there a space for someone to do maybe a faster turnaround on a regular basis, or is that just not feasible with the crowdfunded model?
I think there is. The problem being that I can see would be it would need to be obviously much cheaper than the projects you're seeing come out now, and I mean to include shipping and everything. I think see, I don't know. I don't know how well that would work with the crowdfunding model, because it's I mean a lot of the reason why some of these books take longer is because they're thicker books. They're full stories. But say if I were to break this comic up, I could probably break this one up into maybe 5 parts and do it that way. Extend it a little bit, make it 20 pages each, but I don't know. That's a good question. It's I mean it's something I would like. It's something I would like to purchase, and something I would like to look forward to. It's just where we are with the means of production right now. I'm not sure it's viable yet. Like I think it can be, just maybe not yet. And there's probably people out there that can do it. Like I mean, if Ethan wanted to, he could certainly do it. Right. But I don't. Again, the speed would also come into question then too. I think it depends. It really depends on the creators and the means at their disposal, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, something like you mentioned, Ethan, like something like, obviously he worked in the mainstream for 20 something years. He knows how to put out a monthly book.
Right.
But would that book look as good as Cyberfrog looked?
That's a good question too.
Like, I don't think it could.
I can only speak for, I can tell you this much. If Nerium decided to put out a monthly book, you'd get the exact same quality, because she can produce that quality like that. Like, I mean, she is fast and with sparing no detail. But I know that's not everybody. So that's why I say, I think it really depends on the creator and just how, the means they have to do it. Because I mean, most of us, I'd say the vast majority of us, are also working full-time jobs. We're running YouTube channels. We got all kinds of things going on besides this. So I think for some people, the speed at which they're producing is really commendable, considering everything else they got going on in their lives.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, if this is your primary source of income, if this is what's working for you, then you can do it. Absolutely. I would do it if I could.
Yeah, it just is something that I've been like wrestling in my brain with lately, is just this idea of, I love some of these books, especially, I mean, there's some of these crowdfunded series I really enjoy, and I would love to be able to read more of them.
Right.
But then again, the question comes into play of, am I willing to possibly sacrifice the quality in order to get more of it faster? I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be faster, it'd be cheaper, but then over the long haul, it really wouldn't be cheaper, right? Because you just kind of be breaking it up based on how many pages you're getting, etc. But yeah, I'd say some people could probably do it, some people probably couldn't, and maintain the quality.
Right.
You're probably right. There's probably not a lot who could do it and maintain the quality.
Right, and that's where I'm like, I mean, I look at like for example, like I said, I read a lot of manga, and they put out new chapters every week. So I mean, granted, they have assistants who do the backgrounds for them. They have, there's a lot more than just the name you see. Yeah. There's the name of the creator who's doing the book, but he's generally not doing the backgrounds, not doing the screen tones or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's certainly not lettering or anything like that. So So it's hard to be like, oh, well, these, they make manga like that. They do it every week. Like, yes and no.
Yeah. Again, I think there's not a lot of people who are keen on all the details that go into everything.
Right.
So yeah, it's really easy to sit back with your remote and flipping the channels and say, well, yeah, why can't you do that every month? But when you get down to it, yeah, I mean, there's a lot involved in it.
Well, and like you said, the other thing too with a lot of creators is this is not all they do.
Yeah.
This is
Like Niram, for example, she's a full-time school teacher on top of all of this. So, I mean, if she didn't have that to do, I'm pretty confident she could probably deliver 20 pages every month, easy.
Right.
But she doesn't. We all need that income because this isn't our primary source of income. For some of us, this is barely a source of income.
Right.
We're just doing this to get our work out there. Present it to the world.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then something I actually had asked you in the written interview, and there's an answer there for anyone who wants to read the written interview again on Indie Comics Underground. Do you feel like Sunsworn? I look at Sunsworn. Other people have said it. It feels like it's the idea almost. It's like it's a new Star Wars almost. I hate to say it like that because it's so reductive.
I've got no problem with that because that's exactly what I designed it to be.
Okay.
Sunsworn. I started writing it before I was disillusioned with Star Wars completely, but I was really lazy about it, right? Because I'm like, well, there's no rush for this. It'll get done when it gets done. And then came The Last Jedi, and that I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. That movie killed me inside.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just. Because I was one of those people that saw The Force Awakens. I was like, well, it wasn't that bad. It was kind of a rehash, but I was justifying it in my mind and to other people. Like, well, they kind of got to do that to bring the old people back and bring in the new fans and blah blah blah. Just wait for the next one is what I would tell everyone. Just wait for the next one. It's going to go a completely different direction, and it's going to be awesome. So not only did it crush my soul, but it also made me look like a complete ass on top of it. Because
no one was expecting that amount of crap.
No.
Yeah, I couldn't have been more wrong. So yeah, it wasn't just the film that did it though. It was all of those apologists, all those jerks that were constantly defending it and telling people who've been Star Wars fans for 2 weeks, telling people who have been Star Wars fans since they were 3 years old that they're stupid. And I kept hearing, if you don't like it, why don't you write something better? And eventually I was just like, well, you know what? I already started. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to write something better. And I hope one day, if Disney continues to do what they're doing with Star Wars, I hope one day people forget Star Wars ever existed and they're enjoying Sunsworn instead.
Now that would be great, honestly, because I very much was very similar to you with my take from Force Awakens. Like, I mean, you can see obviously right behind me, I've got Anakin back there, and he's always looking over my shoulder. And I always, again, lifelong Star Wars fan. I will never forget the day that I've told this story before on a stream. I never forget the day my daughter came to me and said, "Hey Dad, can we watch the Star Wars movies?" And like, I was like, "Oh,
yes, we can."
Yeah, exactly. And it's the funniest thing because at the time I think she was probably like 12 or 13 or something like that. And we watched all of the original, we watched the prequels and the original trilogy. We watched all of them. She loved them all. And I have to say, and I know some people go back and forth on prequels, I happen to really like the prequels. So that's just me. You take that for what it's worth.
They grew on me. I had a problem at first. I'm still not that big of a fan of Attack of the Clones, but yeah, they definitely grew on me. And Revenge of the Sith was really good. That's one of the best Star Wars movies ever made.
I just genuinely enjoyed it. Like I said, it was. You know what? I liked it from the first time I saw it. Was I a huge fan of Jar Jar? No, but like,
But I bet you were a huge fan of Darth Maul.
Hell yeah! Who wasn't?
They should have swapped screen time. I think that would have solved a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they should not have killed him off in that first movie.
No. Well, I guess technically they didn't, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. But we watched all those movies. Then we went to see Force Awakens, and same thing. Like I was like, it was okay. I enjoyed it. It was fine. Like, you know, yeah, it's a lot of rehashing. They're even literally in the movie joking about the Death Stars. You know, literally Han makes a joke about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is bigger Death Star.
Right. Yeah.
Because they knew what everyone's going to be thinking, right?
Right. And but even after that, I was like, but you know what? They set up some cool stuff. There's some mysteries. I remember going to dinner with my wife, and I went to dinner with some friends of ours, and we were literally talking about Force Awakens, about who could Rey be related to. We were talking about, we all hated Kylo Ren,
Yeah.
Like we were all like, it was just funny because like we were still having those Star Wars conversations.
Right.
And those all stopped after The Last Jedi.
Yeah, because you just didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
But who would have knew? Who would have ever guessed that among all the Force users, all these powerful people in the Star Wars universe, that Han Solo would be the greatest prophet among them all? Because when he said that's not how the Force works,
right?
In The Force Awakens, little did we know that was going to apply to the rest of the movies, the entire franchise from that point on.
Yeah, pretty much.
He may as well have been talking to Disney.
Right.
Like, that's not how the Force works.
He, it's funny because they, obviously they backed up the Brinks truck to his house. They got him to agree to do one last movie. And then obviously the biggest regret is literally not getting the original cast all together for at least one scene in that movie. But he knew back years ago, he was like, kill me off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he wanted Lucas to kill his character off.
I know. I know, because he basically said, like, I've done everything. His arc is over. Just kill me off.
Right.
And then what did we end up doing? We just reverted. We just acted like his entire arc didn't happen and brought him back to where he was when we first met him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was, like, again, I don't want to turn this into a bash Star Wars stream, because God knows there's enough of those.
It's sometimes it's almost unavoidable, especially when people ask me that question, because
right.
That's the answer. Like, honestly, right. When people put that hashtag thank you Ryan Johnson on Twitter, I'm all about it, but I'm thanking him for different reasons. I'm thanking him for the motivation to create something that I wanted to create my whole life. Thank you for ruining me to the point where I felt that I needed to do something about it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's like, thank you for giving me the spite to make this wonderful piece right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, let the hate flow through you. No, but it's true. It really is. Like, it's amazing how. But the crazy thing is it's not just Star Wars. It's literally like
everything. Yes.
Like, how did we get here that literally every single franchise is just like, the people who loved it, held it close to them in their hearts for decades, now want nothing to do with them. It takes a special
culture.
It takes
it
takes a special kind of screw up to do that.
Yeah, it's treasures being put in the wrong hands. That's what's happening. And it's just, it's whoever got the money, and unfortunately the people with the billions are the ones who want to do nothing but message constantly. I never had a big problem with messaging in stories.
Right.
But it was usually fairly subtle, and 9 times out of 10 it wouldn't necessarily lead you one direction or the other. It would leave you, just present a case and leave you to draw your own conclusions.
Right.
But now, God, subtle messaging? What is that?
No,
we got this hammer here that has my political message written on it. I'm going to beat you on the head with it until you either understand or you're out of blood.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's either you submit and say, okay, you're right, or you're dead. So there's your choice.
It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. And it's just, it just goes to show, creativity it's in jeopardy. These people aren't creative at all.
No.
Yeah, and creativity and meritocracy, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I feel like, and we talk actually, it's funny because we talked a little about this on Tuesday, um, and I'll bring it up again. And I really do think the more I've been thinking about it, because I was even thinking about it since then, I feel like one thing that is just absolutely lacking in so much, and we were talking about it in a different regard in our show on Tuesday, but I just feel like people are afraid, or something, whatever it is, people are afraid to genuinely do something, to have a genuine, just I'm gonna what I said really is everything seems to just lack earnestness nowadays. It's earnestness is looked down upon nowadays, where you can't just write an earnest story that you're trying to tell without having someone make snarky comments throughout the thing to wink and nudge at the audience, like, oh, I know this is corny as hell, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, but why can't you just tell an earnest story?
Well, you can. That's exactly what I did.
And that's
'Cause
what
I
I'm
don't.
saying.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about anyone's messaging. I don't care who wants to be represented. I don't give a shit. Honestly, I wrote Sunsworn for me, because that's a story I've always wanted to tell. It was a really cool game when we had the game going.
Right.
All the players loved that universe, and I just, I think it's a great universe, and I just want to spread it around. Like I don't, who cares what color Aster is under his helmet?
Right.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares who he's taking to bed. That's not part of the story. It's not an issue.
Right.
The galaxy's being destroyed. Do we want to stop to put some gay sex in there? No, I'm good. Let's face the forces of evil instead. How about that? How about that notion?
Well, that was, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned it like that, because I just had remembered a story. And we were talking on Tuesday. We did a show all about action heroes. So one of the things we talked about was Schwarzenegger and his movies and stuff like that. And I remember him doing an interview about Predator, where at the time he said they had introduced, they had that village that they just, blasted to shit. And they found that girl in the jungle. There was actually people at the studio who wanted to turn her into a romantic interest for Arnold in that movie, and he was like, and he said that he actually, because at this time obviously he had enough juice to do this. He said to them, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We're being hunted by this alien monster. What are we gonna?"
Right.
He's like, "What are we gonna do? Go sneak behind a bush and have some hanky panky? Like, this. There's no point to that in the movie."
Oh, back when Arnold had a brain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. Like, even at that point, where, let's be honest, that was for some of the era of some of the greatest entertainment we've had was created, and even there, they were trying to like just stick something in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look back, like, you can see some hints of wokeness throughout before the wokeness was ever a thing. Like, even Star Trek Next Generation, I think, was almost like the launch pad for woke culture. Like, I love the Next Generation, don't get me wrong. I thought that was a really cool series, but that's really when they started kind of nudging you in this direction.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, there's certain episodes for sure of Next, and again, I'm the same way. I'm a huge Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. I even liked Enterprise, and I waited for a second to hear if there was going to be a laugh.
No, I forgive the Enterprise lovers. It's not, definitely not for me, but I understand why people enjoy that.
It would have been fine even if it wasn't a Star Trek show, but that's a whole nother point. But Next Generation definitely had some episodes that were more subtle about the way they went about these things. But then there was a few where they did kind of just pull out the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
There definitely was, but the funny thing is generally speaking, those episodes are not regarded as the ones that people consider classic episodes of Next Generation. Everybody talks.
That's because people see through it,
Right.
Especially then, I should say, not even then, especially then, you could kind of tell when people were just trying to be edgy, and
Right.
it didn't really go over too well. But now they have this whole screaming Twitter fan base that just want more and more edgy.
The funny thing.
The problem is these people think that the Twitter's the whole world, right? You got these idiots on Twitter that just yap all day long. They got nothing to do but be on Twitter yapping about, problematic things. And for some reason, corporations take them seriously. Like what is that? I mean, 20% of the world's even on Twitter, and there's, 20% of that 20% might be these morons.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The problem is that they're the most vocal people on there.
Well, that's what it is. It's the analogy basically of the screaming child. It's when you go out into public and you have a little child and that child throws a tantrum, people are going to handle it different ways. Some people are just going to be like, no, we ain't having this. And they're going to either just take the kid and go or whatever. And then you have the others who try to bribe the kid and give the kid what they want to get them to stop having their tantrum, because that child is not worried about being embarrassed in public.
Right.
But they know that you are. They know that you are. So if the more they scream and make a fuss, they know. I mean, they test you first. They see what your reaction is. And if your reaction is to give them what it is that they're tantruming for, well, now they know it works. So now you've just, for them, that experiment that they ran of, well, I'm going to scream and cry till I get what I want. And I got what I want.
You're exactly right.
Once you do that, now they know, well, this is a strategy that works. So now every time I want ice cream or a candy or a toy or whatever, I'm just going to scream and throw myself on the floor and throw a tantrum. And that's what people do on Twitter.
It's an entire culture of people who constantly decry shaming and bullying, and their very life essence resides in shaming and bullying people.
Right.
The epitome of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's all about you scream and cry until somebody gives you what you want. And it's ironic in a way, because they're the first ones to get mad when someone else gets what they want. The redesign for Sonic, the Snyder Cut, anything that has been made to appease fans, to do something that fans wanted to see. Oh no, we can't have that. That's dangerous to give the fans what they want.
They're appealing to toxic fans.
Right.
Oh, they've even gone so far as to, like, I've heard Snyder Cut fans being referred to as terrorists at this point.
Oh yeah, they were.
Like, nothing means anything anymore. They just use whatever word comes to their tiny little pea brain, and that they just use it over and over and over again until it no longer has meaning.
Oh, absolutely. No, words don't mean anything anymore. Like, you could literally, it's like, you might as well just walk up to somebody and be like, habble, slobble, garble, snarf. Okay.
How dare you? I'm so offended.
And then that person will be like, did you just assume my gender?
Yeah.
I thought I heard a gender in there somewhere. There probably was, because there's like 97 of them and they all have stupid names.
Oh, but it's just crazy to me. Like, the whole thing is just nuts. But like I said, I still feel like even before we got to all this, it was the Whedonisms and that stuff that led to this whole, we have to wink and nudge at the audience to say, oh, we get it. We're in on it. We know this is cheesy. Why, though? Just tell an earnest story. Do something in earnest. It's the same thing. And it's funny, because the more I was thinking about it, the more I started realizing it's not just in storytelling. It's pervasive. It's the whole, we all joke about it. It's the whole thing where a comic creator puts on Twitter, or a writer or whatever puts on Twitter, I did a thing.
I did a thing, yes.
And then there's their link to whatever it is that they did, or a picture of it or whatever. Why would you put it in that way? The only reason you're putting it in that way is because you are afraid. You're afraid of being rejected. That's the only thing I could come up with. I feel like you're just afraid of being rejected. Instead of saying, here's this thing that I worked on really hard, and I put my all into it, and I really hope you guys enjoy it, because I really liked it, and I worked hard on it, and it was time and sweat and effort, and here it is, and it's the best I could do at this moment in time, so I really hope you like it. Because that would really hurt if someone said, well, that sucks.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be hurt either way.
But that's life.
They're very sensitive.
Definitely with them.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, inevitably, what ends up happening anyway is they do well, I'm too cool to care thing. So yeah, here I did a thing. You can read it if you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've the entire world seems to have devolved back into junior high.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like even in like junior high, you would be able to like have some self-deprecation and get over it.
Well, it's funny because there's like you can be like God knows I'm self-deprecating all the time. I make fun of myself constantly. It's because whatever like it's
You
never
dance
been an
much,
issue.
Jam?
It's never, but that's the thing. Like it's never really been an issue for me. Like I grew up around friends that we did nothing but rip on each other constantly.
Right. Well, that's been lost because those friends aren't allowed to rip on each other anymore.
Right. Right. And that's part of the problem. Like, dude, like did I have like, yeah, I got into fistfights as a kid. It happened. I'm still here. I haven't murdered anyone. I'm not like, like it's like it's okay. It's okay to call your friend a name. It's okay if he calls you a name. It doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to now go behind their back and try to like backstab them and get like the people who did that are the ones that nobody wanted to hang out with.
Well, no, and the reason that happens is because people are afraid to speak their mind. That's when you get the backstabbing nonsense. That's when you get people, like I've always said, we've been constantly shaming, racists and bigots and blah, blah, blah. Why? Well, let them do it. Let them speak their mind. Then you know who the assholes are and who, who the decent people are. Just let people speak their mind. And, if you don't want to be around those people, then don't be around them.
Right. Well, that's
when you sit there and constantly police speech and behavior, well, yeah, then everybody's going to be just sneaking around. You're not going to know who's who or what they think or what they believe. You're not going to know what they're up to. When 9 times out of 10 before, these people would just be flat out telling you what they're up to, who they are, what they believe, and you can be like, okay, I'll go leave that person over here and go this way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you get you get on the train, you get on a bus, whatever, and there's the crazy person in the bus who's talking on the train, who's talking to themselves and just acting, twitching and being crazy. Like, you understand, like, I'm not going to go engage that person in conversation.
Yeah, maybe a few seats back.
Yeah, like, and it's the same thing in real life. If someone is out there just spewing vile, disgusting crap, you're just going to be like, I'm not hanging around with this person because they're an asshole.
Right.
Like, that's the bottom line. Like, forget about labeling someone, whether they're, you're a homophobe, you're a racist, you're a this, you're a that. You are an asshole.
Right.
Good
there
enough.
You go. Good enough. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
and guess what? Newsflash too. These people are allowed to think whatever the hell they want to. Also, they're allowed to say it. There's nothing wrong with that. They can do and say whatever they want, but then it's up to them to deal with not having friends or getting their ass kicked behind the bar or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's so like the whole situation has just gotten to just a ridiculous point. And like I said, it's this whole, like, part of it is this whole lack of earnestness in things. And again, you can't, I see even, like, for example, people doing reboots of old things. They constantly have to make it in a way that tears down the old one.
Yeah.
Because if you just earnestly tried to make a good entry in that series, you might fail. And then you might get your feelings hurt. But then you do this stupid way of doing it and you fail anyway. And
even harder, most likely.
Exactly. And then guess what? You still get your feelings hurt. So you might as well just earnestly try to do your best and just stop with all the crap. Like, it's just irritating. It really is.
I can't count the number of people who I've heard say something to the effect of, like with the 2016 Ghostbusters, if they would have made that a passing of the torch, yeah, people would have been more inclined to accept that. And I get that because I kind of feel the same way, but you just kind of act like the originals never happened. These are the Ghostbusters. There's other Ghostbusters? No, they never were. These are the Ghostbusters. Well, these Ghostbusters suck, and so does the entire movie. So are you sure? You sure about that? Well,
I also think the idea of, well, it's funny, actually, just before I do say that, like, getting onto, like, with Ghostbusters, there's, I mean, the trailer for that new movie,
Afterlife.
Afterlife with Paul Rudd. Like, everybody saw that trailer and instantly was like, wow, this looks really good.
Yes.
Like people were shocked that it looked good, first of all, because you're always shocked when something looks good nowadays.
Right.
But
Especially if it's a continuation or a reboot.
but what was great about that was in there, in that, even just alone in that trailer, they paid homage to the original. They mentioned them, they show the video clip of them, and then at the end of that trailer, when they break out the Ecto-1 and you hear the siren and it's the same like I got goosebumps. I was like, this is amazing.
Nostalgia is a powerful thing, and that's why so many people were confused with the Force Awakens, right? Because they tapped a lot of that nostalgia, and then they proceeded to shove it up their rectum. But anyway, yeah, nostalgia is a powerful thing, and it's not always not always a bad thing either. I mean, tapping nostalgia is a good thing, because there was a lot of cool stuff that we're now completely ignoring that we could easily tap and add on to, like RC, you mentioned the reboots and the remakes. I don't care for reboots at all. I don't want to see reboots, but you get these 20 years after the fact sequels. Some of those I can get down with, because some of those are actually pretty good. Like Tron was pretty good.
Well, it allows something that we never really had before. You have that opportunity to revisit these things and do it as a continuation. So you get to see, where are these people now all these years later? What are they doing? Mm-hmm. What have they been up to? And as a fan, that's a powerful draw. You've been a fan of something for a long time, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to find out where they've been, what they've been up to. Even if, you don't go into every little detail, you're going to get this idea of where they are now and kind of like reliving, like, and that's where I feel like Ghostbusters Afterlife, that trailer, feels like that's what they're going to do, is they're going to pass the torch.
Right. Yeah, which is what they should have done in the first place. Like, why wouldn't you? Especially when you have the majority of the original cast still, with us.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You've got, and it was it was the same thing with Star Wars. You had the original cast all still alive, and now they're not.
Yeah.
So now
give the writing responsibilities of those films to any fan who is at least 40 years old. You would have gotten a better movie.
Yeah.
I think even I could
no question in my mind.
Than that.
Yeah, when I hear J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson come out talking about how they're lifelong Star Wars fans, I can't help it. No, you're not. You're a liar. You're lying to my face. There's no way that if you had Star Wars in your heart, you would have produced that kind of feces. Right. No way.
Rian Johnson is a Star Wars fan who hated the first time you saw it. And he's like, I'm going to destroy it.
He's a turd.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
It's just, it's funny because with JJ, like, again, I with Force Awakens, I was like, okay, depending on where they go with this, if all this stuff makes sense, and I have to believe, like, because I was naive at the time, I thought they actually had a plan.
Right.
For the entire trilogy.
That was the biggest revelation of all.
I know.
You got something like Star Wars, you don't even have half a plan. Are you serious?
That to me is the most incredible thing. You literally bought this franchise for $4 billion with a dollars. You expect that you're going to be able to make these movies and continue to make money on them through movies, TV shows, the theme parks, everything for years to come. Like, that was the idea when they bought Star Wars. It was so they can make money off this property for decades and decades to come. Forever. Yes.
And they easily could have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They absolutely could have.
They could have recouped that initial purchase in the first year if they hadn't screwed up the way they did.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing was Force Awakens, like I said, I think a lot of people had the same take that like you said you did and I did, where it was like, you're like, yeah, it was all right, it was a little rehashing and whatever, but like and again, like I said, I thought they had a plan, so I thought there would be a reason explained why Rey was able to do what she was able to do, why Luke was on this island all by himself. There's got to be a good reason why our hero would be there, because they wouldn't have both Han and Luke just run away from all their responsibilities for no reason, right?
Right. Wrong.
And that was the thing I kept saying, like, well, they gotta have a plan. And then Rogue One came out, and I really liked Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of Rogue One. I mean, and that Darth Vader scene in the hallway was worth it all by itself.
Oh
It
yeah,
was,
that made the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah,
For me, that made the
Again,
movie.
again, tapping nostalgia, right?
yeah, of course.
And
Like
I mean,
this was
you've never seen Vader like that before outside of like
exactly.
video games, you know?
Exactly. That was just it. You saw Vader like at his full power, just absolutely I mean, there is no reason why like you understand now when you watch episode 4, you know, the original Star Wars, when you see those guys, the rebel soldiers in the hallway, and they look nervous as shit before that thing pops open.
Right.
You know, now you know why.
Yeah, because there was a similar hallway not that long ago.
They're
Like it
probably breathing
really
a sigh of relief when those troopers came through. They're like, whew,
yeah,
not
I know,
Vader.
right? Like they really like, you know, I mean it really drove that point home, and that was really well done. And then it went downhill from there. You know, I mean, the idea, listen, the Solo movie, a friend of mine who's a giant Star Wars fan, has been for years. He's read all the expanded universe novels, the whole 9 yards. He told me Solo's okay. He said it's not terrible. I've never seen it. I never bothered watching it.
Yeah, that's the general consensus. I think is okay because that's how I feel about it. It was okay.
Okay.
There's some stuff in there that was unnecessary and kind of stupid. But I mean, if it wasn't for totally screwing the pooch on the primary trilogy movies, then I think that could have been easily forgiven. The small problems with Solo, but
yeah, no, I think so. But it was just. First of all, nobody was asking for a Han Solo standalone movie. That's the first thing.
No, not at all.
No one needed that. Like that was not something. Literally, to the point where we know everything we need to know about Han Solo. To the point where when they made, I think it was episode. Was it episode 1? It might have been episode. I forget which one it was. They actually had. They have the art, like you can find the art for it and the costume design and everything. They had a scene in mind where you were going to see Han as a child, and they scrapped it.
That's
Lucas
news
was like,
to me.
and Lucas was like, "No, we don't need it. Like we don't need it. Just cut it." You know. Yeah, they had it. They were gonna do it, and then they just didn't. Because even George Lucas, the man who created the character, knew we didn't need any more, like to know more about his history.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, we really didn't. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I know in the third movie, there's one small little bit where you can see the Millennium Falcon in the background and Coruscant. But even then, it's not even confirmed that that's Millennium Falcon. That's as close as they got.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be any YT-1300 transport.
See, that's how you know he's a fan. But yeah, no, like there was even a plan to do something with that, and then they just said, nah, it doesn't. It's unnecessary. You know,
I think the problem a lot of people have is we had a ton of great source material to pull from.
Oh yeah,
in the novels, what they call legends now,
right?
And they just completely ignored it. Not only did they ignore it, Kathleen Kennedy even went so far to say, "Is we didn't have anything to pull from. We didn't have source material. Are you retarded?"
That
lady?
Was the dumbest thing.
Yes, she is.
That was the stupidest thing she could have possibly said. Like when they said they were going to take the expanded universe, they were going to make it non-canon, they were going to start their own, it was just going to be legends from that point on and all that stuff. Like when they did that, when it first happened, I was like, that's really pretty shitty to do to all these people who were following this for all these years. But at the same time, from a business perspective, I understood why they did it.
Right.
But then to literally come out and say when she said, well, we don't have all these books and video games to pull from as source material. We just have to make this stuff up on our own. First of all, okay, 2 things. 1, yes, you did have a ton of stuff to pull from. That's just a blatant falsehood. And 2, you're making movies. All of it is made up. Who are you hiring as writers if they can't make shit up?
Oh, have you seen that writer's room? that might explain a lot of things for you.
We were talking earlier about creativity being dead.
Yeah,
right there.
But like the absolute just insanity of a person who has been working in Hollywood for decades. I mean, she's been there forever. You know, granted, you know, she wasn't always in a creative role. She was never in a creative role, but she was there.
Yeah.
She was
and
there.
She always had a bit of a voice too.
Yes, she was there. I mean, you see when you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, her name pops up before the movie even gets really rolling. You know, when you watch E.T., her name pops up. Like, it's just, she was there for all these things. How have you worked on some of these franchises, some of these amazing movies, you know, with all these creative people for all these years, and you say, well, it's really hard to make this stuff up. We have to just make it up. Like, we can't just pull, like, all of the history of movies was taken from other source material.
No, not at all.
Right, like it's the most insane thing I have ever heard a person in a leadership position of a creative industry say, that it's hard. We have to be creative.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
That's your job.
It feels like there are certain people in the industry who, there are some who are sponges, and then there are some who are rocks. Kathleen Kennedy is a rock who can't absorb shit.
Well, that's why when people say things like, you know, PC culture and woke culture is a disease, I tend to agree, because I mean, you see all these people, like, she's a prime example, people who used to have sense and a creative mind, who are just, I mean, I know people in my personal life who used to be sane individuals up until, you know, a few years ago.
Right.
It just, it's like, I don't know, it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, they're not the same people anymore. And I'm beginning to think they're never coming back.
I know. Honestly, that's really the really sad part, is that it seems like there is no coming back for some of these people. It's really strange. But then the good thing is that, you know, listen, we spend a lot of time on the internet. And sometimes the internet can get to you. And then you just go out and you talk to some real people sometimes. And sometimes it's a horrible experience. I freely admit that, because sometimes people are just terrible. But but sometimes you go out somewhere and you have interactions with other live, living, breathing, fairly normal, at least as far as you know, human beings, and it kind of reaffirms a little bit, like, okay, there are still some normal people out there.
Right. What do you think? Do you think maybe that's why they tried to cut that whole thing off of people, you know, going out and associating?
Yeah.
For a year or more?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, listen, if you can't associate, you can't have these interactions. If you can't...
Right. All you got is the online woke mob.
Yeah, and if you can't see a person's entire face, it's very easy to dehumanize them.
Right.
You know, that's a whole nother thing.
There's a lot of stuff that you can say online that you will not say to a person's face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And listen, and there's things that, listen, even right here, right now, like, we're getting close to things that we can't say on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just waiting for there to be a little disclaimer going across in the description.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's gonna. Yeah, the disclaimer's gonna come up. It's gonna say it is really hard to create stuff. No.
Creativity isn't dead, according to fact checkers.
Facebook fact checkers, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
Snopes.com says mostly untrue. Yeah, no, it's just...
We award you 4 Pinocchios.
It's just crazy. Like, it just is absolutely nuts sometimes. And the craziest part is you just want to have a good time. Like, we're not talking about, like, I mean, obviously we got into some others, but we're not talking about life or death here. We're talking about entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, we just want entertainment to be entertaining. Like, that's a big ask these days.
Right. Which is crazy. like, how is it possible that we just want, and it's funny because we've gotten to the point now where, at least I know for myself, like, or, and I hear other people say it too. It's like, you'll watch something, be like, yeah, it was good. There was a little bit of, like, stuff in there, but, like, other than that, it was good. Like, we've even gotten to the point where we're now, like, instead of just saying, like, we're literally just like, it was a little bit, but it wasn't so much that I couldn't deal with it. Like, we literally have gotten to the point where we're being made to
have to look for this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's really annoying. I know exactly what you mean, because I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. Like, yeah, I can't just sit down and enjoy something. Like when Mortal Kombat came out, I couldn't just sit there and enjoy the movie because I was constantly looking for something, something woke, something stupid. Right. I mean, that my opinion on that movie aside, it was, for the most part, it was fun. I didn't catch anything woke. I have some issues with it, but that's not what we're here for. But yeah, and same thing with like Kong versus Godzilla. There were some parts of that I didn't care for, but not because of the things we've been trained to look for, right? No wokeness, anything like that. Just the human aspects ruining the movie. But but it wasn't a big thing. Like, I enjoyed both of those movies. They were both fun, and I would watch them again, mainly because nobody's preaching at me about anything. Right. I'm just watching, people fight and, monsters destroying stuff, and that's what I want.
Right. You just want entertainment from your entertainment.
Yeah, I don't need to hear the gospel according to Biden. I don't need it.
Right. Well, and the funny, it was funny too with Mortal Kombat. Like, I am a giant, or at least I was a giant Mortal Kombat fan from back in the day. I played way more of Mortal Kombat 2 than I should have. And, like, whether it was in the arcade or at home, I played for hours and hours and hours. I just told the story on Tuesday how there were times when I would literally not go to class and I would be playing Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcade. Like,
I was an arcade junkie too, so I feel you.
Yeah. And I love the original movie. Like, yes, like, obviously the CG has aged very poorly, but I just love that movie. There's nobody who can tell me anything other than that movie's great. I love that movie. And I was excited about the new one, honestly, because it looked cool when I first saw the trailer. Like, I saw Jax getting his arms ripped off. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're going to explain how he got the mechanical arms and everything else. I'm like, oh, this looks pretty cool. I like the design. The designs look pretty cool and everything. I'm like, this looks neat. I'm going to check this out. I think this might be good. And then I saw the director talk about how they didn't have Johnny Cage in the movie because they already had Kano in the movie. And they didn't feel like making this movie with a white guy as the lead, which, not for nothing, Johnny Cage is not the star of Mortal Kombat.
Thank you. I'm full agreement.
I don't know why people seem to think that he is. He's not. He was a comedic relief character. That's what, even in the game, that's what he was.
It's because they don't truly know the source material. They only see, oh, white guy. He must be the one who they're going to be focusing on. It's like, no. Actually, look at the games.
Right. Well, it's funny because as soon as I heard that, and then I heard they put some new character who's not even from the games in the movie, and instantly my excitement for it just went.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that going into the movie, and that hurt me quite a bit.
Yeah,
that new character, because I just didn't care about him.
Right. Why would you? There are so many characters in Mortal Kombat. Like, there's no reason to stick your own character in there.
No, none at all. And he wasn't even really that great of a character, to be honest.
Like, there's really literally, there's just no reason. And by the way, if anyone was playing a drinking game for every time I said the word literally in this stream, they'd be dead now. But no, I didn't understand, like, the putting of like, even if he said left out the other part about Johnny Cage and they just told me they put a new character in, it would have hurt my interest, but I still would have been like, okay, whatever, I'll deal with it.
Let's see what they got, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, like, as soon as I heard him say that, like, well, we can't have Johnny Cage be the main character. He is not the main. He never was. Johnny Cage was only in the original Mortal Kombat game as a joke because they were originally, Boone and Tobias have said this many times, they were originally working on a Jean-Claude Van Damme game. And
right. Well, Mortal Kombat was based on Bloodsport, wasn't it?
Originally, yes. They were making a Jean-Claude Van Damme game, and they, for whatever reason, it fell apart, and they weren't able to get Van Damme or use him or whatever it was. I don't remember all the details, but they said originally the whole plan was for Van Damme, and then
I bet Van Damme's kicking himself for that now.
I know, right? And then that whole thing fell apart. So then they put Johnny Cage in there as just like a little to Van Damme. That's why he does the split punch. That's why he's the Hollywood celebrity. Like, he was literally a joke. That was the entire point of that character's creation, was to just be a joke. And if you watch the original movie, he's silly. Yes, he has the fight scene with Scorpion. He is one of the main characters, but he is not the main character. He is not the hero.
Well, they're afraid of white male leads at this point, like deathly afraid of them. Like in The Mandalorian, when Luke Skywalker showed up again, and there was talk of possibly doing a Luke Skywalker spin-off series. The reeing that came from that Star Wars writers' room was heard around the world, like that. And then they literally said, "We don't need white male saviors. We're not doing that anymore. That's not what we do here."
Yeah, but apparently we need white female saviors.
Of course,
yeah.
Yeah, for now, give it time. As soon as they vanquish the white male, the white female's next.
Oh yeah. No, that's crazy to me too. Like, you've got people who literally their job is they. If I drove into work every day, and this is the thing that, like, listen, whatever, call me whatever you want to call me. If I drove into work every day, and I went to Skywalker Ranch, and I walked onto the campus of Lucasfilm, and I walked past that Yoda statue every day to go into work, that would be one of the most amazing things ever.
Right. But you say that as a fan.
Yes.
These people are not fans, and they never were.
And it's painfully obvious. It's painfully obvious that they never were. Like, and that's the thing that kills me. Like, there's so many people who would give their left foot to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And then they have a room full of people who have said on record that they hate Luke Skywalker. That they don't. This is the main character of the franchise that you work on.
Yeah, like it or not, and always will be, no matter what you try to change.
Like, it's the most insane thing in the world to me. I mean, where else would you work somewhere and absolutely despise the thing that is making? That would be like people who work at Nintendo forcefully trying to get rid of Mario. Right.
Yeah, or people who work for Doritos saying, "I think the nacho cheese flavor has run its course. It needs to go."
Right.
The nacho cheese flavor is toxic.
Everybody enjoys the nacho cheese. Get rid of it.
Right. Nacho cheese, not for you. Like, but it is. It's like this childish thing of like, I don't like this, so I'm gonna just get rid. Like, but how sick do you have to be to try to go on the inside and worm your way in to then change it? Or, like, they don't think they're killing it. That's the thing. I really don't think they think they're killing it. They end up killing it.
They think they're subverting the expectations.
They had a formula they thought would work.
Right.
But that formula depended on that 20% of the 20% on Twitter being their new base, and they don't understand how small of a base that really is.
Right.
And that the majority of that base doesn't buy anything anyway. They're just going to steal it.
Exactly. It's the same thing with comics. Like, I laugh, like, again, we were talking about digital before, and like, here we go. The lasso. I just pulled us way back to where we were before. When we were talking about digital, one of the big concerns a lot of people talk about is piracy. But the funny thing is when I see like the Comicscape books and a lot of these indie published books, who's actually pirating these things? Most of the people are just, they want to support these things, so they're spending their money on purpose. They're going out of their way to support these things. You know, the people who Marvel is trying to get, oh, they're pirating the crap out of the Marvel stuff, if they're even bothering to do that. Because most of them don't get past the announcement.
That's true. Yeah, the piracy thing, I don't know. I've never really bought into that, mainly because of what you said, first of all. And second of all, like I said before, most of us are mainly doing this just to get our work out there. And if somebody's stealing it to get it out there, okay. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it and you come buy the next campaign. You know?
Exactly.
I know that I've heard on some streams where it's like, all these people who are saying like, oh, this piracy is so evil and stuff. And it's like, the people who are talking in these streams, they're saying, yeah, I pirate stuff, but then since I enjoyed that, I'm going to go back whenever I'm actually able to pay for it and get it again. That's not what everyone does, but that's what some people do. And it's like, you're going to sort of alienate your fans.
That's the old, honestly, that is the old, I don't know how far back you go with gaming and stuff. I know you do game, but like you go back to like the old days of, hey, don't install this ROM on your computer if you don't already own the cartridge so you can play the game on an emulator. People used to say that all the time, like, well, I just download the ROM and play it to see if I like it, and then I'll go out and buy it afterwards. Like, that's been the thing. People have said that for years. That's been going on in the gaming space, in the comic book space, even in every form of piracy. There's always that whole thing of like, no, I pirate. Yeah, I pirate it, but then later, if I really like it, I go back and I buy it afterwards. Yeah, the truth is that's been proven that nobody really does that.
Yeah.
I will say though, like if someone does decide to pirate, if I, eventually when I put a book out, if someone decides to pirate that book, the only thing I'm going to look at it as at that point, I think really is it's going to be a form of it's baked into the advertising budget. I guess at that point you kind of have to look at it that way. Hopefully they'll tell their friends about this cool comic they read, and maybe the friend will actually buy it. Like it's kind of like this thing of to help, like you kind of have to, unfortunately piracy is a fact of life. And people, it's funny because people who would never, ever, ever actually steal something from a store never think twice about pirating a movie or pirating, like they just don't. Like, it's just not looked at the same way. I know plenty of people who would never in a million years, if they accidentally take something in their shopping cart, they'll go back and pay for it. But they have no qualms about like, hey, guess what? I got an Amazon Fire Stick and my nephew cracked it, so now I can watch every movie.
Yeah, that's very true.
But at the same time, guess what? If they're talking about if you're talking about your comic, or in the case of a movie or whatever, they're having their conversations with people. They're spreading the word. The word of your book or of your product is at least spreading. It's not the ideal way. Ideally they would have bought it and then spread the word. But it's unfortunately it's a fact of life, and trying to just bury your head in the sand and say like this is not going to happen. If people want it bad enough, they'll find a way. People used to cut up comic books and scan them and then put them online. Like physically with a scissor, like, pop the staples, cut each page out and scan it with a computer and then post them online that way. That's where that whole term from, if you ever heard like people call them scans, they're comic scans, because people literally used to scan them.
Yeah, people used to put effort into their theft.
Right. But my point is it's going to happen one way or the other. So I would rather get the extra sales, I feel like, from the digital copy. Whatever sales I was going to lose, I lose to a pirate. They probably weren't going to buy it in the first place.
Yeah, that's probably true. And there is, like you said, there is also the possibility of, more exposure that way. Hopefully they don't just, send them a copy. Hopefully
Right.
they just say, hey, I got this and it's pretty cool. You should check it out.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's more a matter of they're just like chatting up comics in a place somewhere, and then they mention it, and somebody's like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I'll go check that out." And then they search for it, and hopefully the search results would lead them to your Indiegogo or store or however you're doing it.
Right.
Which is actually that's something that's neat. I know we've been going for 2 hours, so we're gonna wrap it up in just a minute, but that just brings up one other thing, and since we got you here, Red, I'll just ask you, like, what you think of, like, Doug Ernst is doing. Instead of a crowdfunding campaign, he just opened a store for his new book.
I love that idea. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and that's something I would like to do eventually. I think, like we were talking about, the means earlier. I think he's got some means now, and that's awesome. I dig that idea. Honestly, I don't want to crowdfund forever, because I think it is. I think it does eventually reach a point where you're just kind of bilking people, because people are used to crowdfunds being more expensive.
Right.
But for people, starting out, trying to get their, their business and everything established and get their brand established, I think crowdfunding is a great launch pad. But yeah, I don't want to be crowdfunding forever. I would love to open a store and just direct people to the store and work things that way. I'm not quite there yet, but yeah, I think that's a great model. I think more people should look into that, especially the more successful people.
Oh yeah, and I think they will. I think that's something that's it's almost a natural evolution, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I do think it will happen with the people who have the bigger audience. The interesting thing would be, and this is just literally once again, just popped into my head. At some point, could we see creators having their own store on their own website? They have their own website, they have their own store on there, they're selling their product, but they're also selling other people's product on their page, sort of an exchange of sales in a way. Is that something that would even be feasible? I wonder.
I think it is, but I think it also, of course, there's a level of trust that's necessary there for that too. Because there's a couple creators I've been speaking to about possibly going that direction one day, and yeah, I think it's entirely possible. It's just you gotta make sure those ties are strong, because not everybody is who they say they are. Not everybody is out there trying to help other people as much as they're trying to help themselves. Right. You just gotta make sure you protect yourself. Definitely going into that kind of a situation.
One word: contracts.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You have to. I don't care if they're your best friend in the world and you've known them since you're 6 years old. Then they won't mind signing a contract.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you have to, especially in that kind of situation. If you're going to be relying on them to help sell your product and you're helping to sell their product, there needs to be not just trust, but there needs to be a legal obligation.
Right.
And I know that sounds cold, but that's just
no, you're absolutely right. I'm coming from the standpoint of not being at that stage yet, right? Just to kind of in the opening discussion portion of it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Contracts are a must.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it would be a really cool idea. It would be a great way for creators to help one another. I mean, we see a lot of networking, especially within CG. We see all these different pockets of Comicsgate where, there's this group and there's that group and there's that group and this group. And in fact, just earlier before we came on the air, I saw somebody made it was kind of funny the way they did it. They made a
that lunch table thing. Yes, yeah, I saw that.
Yes. It's all lunch tables, and it's
I was a little hurt because I wasn't at a table.
Neither was I, but I didn't expect to be. Like, listen, I'm pretty small potatoes. I understand that, so I didn't expect to be. But we're growing. Everybody, listen, I'm over 400 subs. Everybody who's subbed, I love you all. I would give you all hugs, but that's illegal right now.
Yeah, and listen, 400 subs isn't easy. That first 1,000 is a climb.
No, and it's been a while. It's taken a long time. I've been doing this now for a good couple of years, and I just keep plugging away, because for me, if I can help, if I can help people like you and other creators make sales and spread word about their projects and stuff like that, in the end, like, that's only going to come back to help me, because that just means there's more people that are out there buying comics.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then, by the way, no channel's too small either. I've heard that before. If somebody has a channel with 30 subscribers, doesn't matter if there's one person watching. That's one person that might not have seen you anywhere else.
Right. Yeah. Oh no. Listen, and that's the funny thing. Like, I know sometimes people get a little like, when I first started streaming, like I would stream to one person,
Right.
or
Hey, me too. Honestly, my very first live stream there was one person in attendance.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I've streamed to 1, I've streamed to 0, or it'll be 1, then it's 0, then it's 1, then it's 0. Like, it happens. But then even afterwards, people will watch the replay. Like, so it's not always about just the live audience. It's everyone. Right. It's that entire audience. And I keep hustling, I keep trying to grow and spread the word and everything else. And that's why I have the website, because I feel like sometimes people would rather just read an interview than sit through, a 2-hour live stream.
Yeah, but why not both?
Oh yeah, no. Listen, I put them all. I put them all on the website, but I feel like you never know which way is going to catch someone's attention and which way is going to drive a sale for someone. Yeah. So that's why. And I saw it, like when I first started the website. I started it originally. It was like a zine that came out once a month, and eventually I had I felt bad because I was missing people because it just didn't fit. Like the timing didn't work. By the time I saw them and then got in touch with them and whatever. I guess if we had subtitles, you could read a 2-hour live stream.
There'd be so many tangents for that.
Yeah, I know, right? I can only imagine though, like with the translation. Like I think it would be funny to see what it actually said. That'd be pretty funny.
YouTube's translations are pretty bad.
Yeah. I've seen every time that Peter Samedi does a stream, if you see the closed captioning, it'll always say like his name is always something different. Every time. Like,
I'd be like, why are these people talking about hot dogs and buffaloes? I thought this was a comic stream.
Like, he'll say his name, and I've seen his name as Peterson Betty. I've seen it as Pizza Maddie, like pizza.
I like pizza. I had pizza for dinner.
Did you? Listen, people like to say that all of us are intolerant and all this. Well, I am intolerant of lactose. So pizza is a struggle for me.
Have you tried the what is it? Squash cheese?
No.
It's terrible. Don't try it.
Oh, okay.
I've had some vegans try to convince me.
Even heard of that?
No, me neither.
Yeah, I had a low point in my life where I was hanging out with a couple of vegans, and they tried to convince me that squash cheese was just as good as regular cheese, and it's always a lie. It's always a lie. The cheese is never as good. The burger's never as good. It doesn't even taste similar, let alone as good. None of it does. These Impossible burgers, they're impossible to taste like anything real. It's disgusting. All vegan food is gross. I'm sorry if you're a vegan. I'm sorry you have to live that way. I'm not apologizing for judging you. I'm apologizing that you live that way.
And for God's sake, if you are vegan, do not make your animal eat a vegan diet.
Oh, God, for real.
You are murdering that animal. Stop it. I've seen too many times where you see these things and these animals are malnourished. They're sick. Their hair's falling out. It's disgusting. Like, what are you doing? Sorry, that just pisses me. Anybody who messes with animals just pisses me off.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Because I've seen that a lot, and it's animal abuse.
Yeah. Pablo said nothing vegan is good.
Correct.
True.
Yeah, no, I you know what? I stopped with the dairy products so many years ago that at this point I don't even really miss it anymore. And I'm Italian, so for me to give up cheese.
Oh yeah, it's gotta hurt.
Seriously, not having my grandmother's lasagna when she was still alive, at the end there, that's just that honestly, that is a fate worse than death. like that. Like if you've ever had my grandmother's lasagna, you would know.
I can imagine. I've had some pretty good lasagna, and yeah, I'd be pretty upset.
We used to every Thanksgiving and every Christmas we would have lasagna. First we would have like antipasta, like we'd have like all this stuff and we'd be eating all that, and then we'd have lasagna, and then like like we would all just be like ugh from the lasagna, and my grandmother would be like, all right, here's the turkey. I'm like, Jesus, just give us 5 minutes.
Oh, and that lasagna will deceive you. You get this inch by inch square and it doesn't look like much, but it'll just consume your entire stomach.
Yep. All right, so why don't we wrap this up? So one last time, the book is Sunsworn, Wings of Vengeance. Sorry, I just had to say it that way.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we were talking on the last show about the narrator, Don LaFontaine, who did all the trailers back in the day. Maybe like, in a world, like everything started that way. Like I was joking, like even like Harry Met Sally the trailer started that way. It was like in a world, But yeah, no, we've been going for a while. So the book is Sunsworn, Wings of Vengeance. It's still going. It's got about 8 days left on the campaign, but it's going to be extended. So you got a chance to definitely get in there. And I definitely would recommend it. The book looks absolutely fantastic. And Red, where can people find you if they want to find out more, or just they like the sound of your voice and would like to hear more?
Well, I am Red Gaze on YouTube, at the Red Gaze on Twitter. One thing I've been meaning to do, and I still have not yet gotten to, is I want to start making some Sunsworn lore videos. So we kind of start broad and then just break down, the aspects of the galaxy, organizations, planets, characters. And that's one thing I really want to get done here shortly. So keep an eye out for that. If it doesn't happen soon, I apologize. I got a lot going on, but I'm trying. I really am trying.
Yeah, so you can check him out on YouTube, on Twitter. And then, of course, the link to the Indiegogo is in the description below. So you can just click right down there and you can get yourself a copy of the book. And you can even get the novel if you missed out on the novel. And then, RC, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on my YouTube, pretty much the same name as it is here. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the same name, at RCGates1994. And on TikTok, it's some sort of combination of RC Gates and 1994. I just don't have it committed to memory yet. But yeah, I do occasional comic reviews on I do occasional comic reviews on YouTube and some pop culture videos. So yeah, just keep an eye out for those as they come out occasionally.
And then obviously I'm Jam Creates. You're here on my channel, so hopefully you actually know who I am if you're here. And and I definitely want to thank everybody who was in the chat, everybody who is still in the chat. You guys are awesome. And don't forget, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, The Best Ever. That's our show where we pick a topic and then we just that's not right. We just talk. I was going to try and say something eloquent and it just didn't work.
It happens.
Yeah, we talk about like a different topic every week. We pick something fun. A lot of it is usually fairly nostalgic just because that's fun to do. So we do that every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And next week, I don't know what our topic will be, but we'll be here 7 p.m. Eastern. And next Wednesday, we're going to have another interview like this, a special interview with Don Chin. We're going to be talking to him about Beard Zerker. So that'll be a lot of fun. So make sure you come back, and you can follow me on Twitter at jam_creates. You can follow me on Instagram at jam_creates. You can follow me on TikTok at jam_creates. I just kept it the same, RC, so that it's the same name everywhere. It's easy to remember.
Yeah, I think I tried to do that, but my other one was already taken. So. I don't know. I should have that memorized for next live stream.
Put a little post-it.
Maybe, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just stick a little post
screen in front of me that I can do that.
Yeah, like I heard apparently. This is again one last tangent before we go. This is your tangent for the road. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers, because he's been guest hosting Jeopardy the last couple of weeks, or at least not. I don't know if he's doing it anymore, but he was doing it for a couple of weeks. Like they've been having guest hosts on Jeopardy for 2 weeks at a time for a while now since Alex passed away, and Aaron Rodgers was hosting, and apparently this story just came out like earlier today or yesterday, whatever it was, where he had a Post-it note on the podium to remind him not to scratch his butt or pick his nose while he was hosting the show.
Well, you know, sometimes you gotta have a subtle reminder for these things.
And that's one to grow on. And yes, and now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Okay, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna stop spouting and catchphrases like that, or I'll just start getting into the wrestling ones. I'll be like, and that's the bottom line. All right, so we will see you guys soon. Don't forget Sunsworn Wings of Vengeance, and don't forget to come back here on Tuesday for another live stream. In between then, I'm hoping to have some comic reviews up. I've got some comics that I've read that I just haven't had a chance to do the reviews of yet. Issues. Daughter's been sick, and now she's home quarantined because someone in her school was sick.
Fun.
Yeah. So she's fine. Like, she's good. She's just stuck at home now for like 10 days. So anyway,
You sound so excited.
No, listen, I don't get whatever. I love my daughter, and we have a great time. We spend a lot of time together. We have a good time. We watch wrestling together. We watch movies together. We create stuff together. She's an unbelievable kid. I love my daughter. I could gush about my daughter for hours.
But that alone time is precious. We all know
it. Yeah. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for being here. Anybody watching the replay? Yes, I'm thanking you too, because it's cool that you watch the replay. And now I'm just rambling, so I'm really going to end the show. Okay, peace out.
Peace.